What is going on, guys? MMA Island team, we got the fight picks. We're a little bit late this week. I'm sorry. I apologize. We're going to get them flowing out. It's my birthday, and I'm still recording, so I'm having a little bit of a – you guys can give me a little bit of a pass. But we're talking about the main event to start it off, at least from our side. But you guys should go check out the other fight pick videos. I'll save it for the outro. I'm rambling. But Rafael Dos Anjos was supposed to face Islam Makhachev. And what do you know? I would say it's sort of the time of the world, as I love to mention when it comes to COVID, but it's not COVID-related. Staph infection goes to Islam Makhachev, and, man, I want to see this dude fight, and that sucks. But in steps War Felder, as I'm sure Zach would love me to call him, Paul Felder, man, talking about retirement after his war with Dan Hooker. In steps Paul Felder on 5 days' notice. I think if you're an MMA fan that actually has brain cells, you have to respect Paul Felder for that. But I will pass it on to Zach to start us off.
So it's rare that a short notice replacement actually makes the fight better. Shout out Raoni Barcelos last week, and shout out Paul Felder this week, because Makhachev versus Dos Anjos is a less competitive fight than this fight. That fight was that is the UFC matchmakers lobbing a softball to Makhachev, trying to build him up off a big name. And so I think this worked out for the better, because now we have something fun. We have an absolute scrap between two guys who always get into good fights. And Paul Felder is coming off a Fight of the Year candidate with Dan Hooker, which I agree, which at least I think that he should have won. Do you agree?
Paul Felder, Dan Hooker. You think Felder won?
I do.
I scored it for Hooker personally.
Well, it was a very close fight either way. And that just shows that his mentality is that he wants to go to war. But he doesn't have that same killer instinct that he used to have. You see, when Paul Felder first came into the UFC, this guy was finishing everybody. I mean, in his first run, he had that spinning back fist. He choked out Darren Cruikshank. He knocked out Alex Ricci, Stevie Ray, and Charles Oliveira. And that win over Charles Oliveira 3 years ago is his last fight that did not go to the judges. He seemed to go to a lot more decisions as of late. And notably, in James Vick's long losing streak, he was the only person to not finish him. Take that as you will, but I'm not saying that he's not powerful anymore. He does have pop in his hands, but he seemed to evolve more into a technical brawler, a guy who has a lot of, not a lot of like technique in his punches. It is some there, but one who likes to get into these long drawn out wars and these bloody battles. Now, Rafael Dos Anjos, this guy, I'm going to make a claim right here. He has fought the toughest competition in UFC history. And this is just another name to add on to the many, many people that he has fought. And he's coming down from welterweight. This is his first fight back down at lightweight. And at the time of recording, he has made weight. And if we know something about Rafael Dos Anjos, he is huge. Felder may have the height advantage, but the bigger man is absolutely going to be Rafael Dos Anjos. He's going to be a lot bigger and a lot stronger. And we've seen Paul Felder struggle with bigger opponents bigger than him before. The best example of this fight, and also it is also on short notice, is his fight with Mike Perry. Mike Perry, they're around the same height, but Perry's substantially bigger than him, and Paul Felder took this fight on short notice. Now, it was close. It was a close fight, but Dos Anjos is a much better fighter than Mike Perry is, and he brings something that Felder has not faced all of the time. He has not faced a lot, and that is a decent ground game. Now, as we know from Paul Felder, he only loses to two types of people. I mean, RDA, he only loses to two types of people. He loses to fighters who are bigger than him and fighters who are wrestlers. And that's why people who are saying he's shot because of the Chiesa loss, shut your mouth. Come on now. Michael Chiesa is bigger than RDA and a wrestler. He fits the two categories that he can't seem to beat. And also, Chiesa is very underrated. So I think taking that fight as an example, saying that RDA is shot, is kind of ridiculous. Now, he's coming back down to lightweight, and he's going to be massive at lightweight. And I think that his strength advantage over Felder is going to help him take Felder down to the ground. Because as we've seen, Paul Felder, when he gets on the ground, he gets in trouble, especially with high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners. Before he beat Charles Oliveira, he was in danger of being finished for at least 2-3 minutes. He was in a lot of trouble down there. And RDA is a much stronger man than Charles Oliveira is. And that's kind of where I'm leading to this fight. I'm going to go ahead and pick RDA. I think that Felder doesn't really have what it takes to stop him, to knock him out. I think that this fight, if this fight does get stopped, it's going to be RDA by submission. We know he likes that arm triangle choke. That's what I think I'm going to predict. I'm going to predict RDA by arm triangle. He's going to take down Paul Felder. He's going to use his strength to hold him down and get that choke. Now, is this fight close? Absolutely. And if this fight stays on the feet, you might have to give the edge to Felder. But I don't see RDA just standing and striking with Felder for 5 rounds. I think he's going to go for at least one takedown. Felder has not fought good enough wrestlers to really prepare for RDA, and that's why I'm going to pick him.
Wow. So, I was leading into this. Actually, I'll start off by talking about the Makhachev RDA fight. I totally agree with you. That was a step for Islam. And I think Islam is deserving of higher-ranked opponents. All respect to RDA, a former champ. But coming back down to lightweight to take on a guy who is just on a killer run right now, and as a lot of people are expecting him to become Khabib Part 2, totally different style of fight. But I just think that's a pretty good step. And actually, Islam was my lock of the card.
Really?
Until the staph infection. So that sucks. And then, as I mentioned, and as we mentioned, Paul Felder steps in. What a beast. You got to respect Paul Felder for that. And man, am I rooting for him. But damn, I didn't expect us both to agree. We both got RDA in this one. I'm going to be taking RDA as well. Couple reasons. So you kind of hit the nail on the head with all of your points. The wrestler thing. And that's the thing, the competition as well. Looking at RDA's last few fights, Michael Chiesa in the welterweight division. Woo! I can't wait to see that dude fight again. Leon Edwards, as we know, Leon Edwards is big. Leon Edwards is very, very good, and I can't wait to see him fight Hamzat because that is just a coin toss of a fight, which probably won't be a coin toss when it comes down to it. It'll probably be a very one-sided fight, and I don't know which side will be one-sided, but I know it's going to be one-sided from one side. Kevin Lee, he defeats Kevin Lee in the welterweight division. And then you got the champ, Kamaru Usman, probably the second best in the welterweight division, in my opinion, Colby Covington.
Mm-hmm. He also lost to Khabib.
Yeah, it's when was the last time we saw Rafael back in 155? Was the Tony fight?
Yes, his welterweight debut was against Tarek Safadine.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been a minute. So, but I do like RDA at 155. I'm kind of shocked that he stayed at welterweight as long as he did. Even though he fought some really, really tough competition, I really just want to see him at 155, man. I think that's the move, and I'm happy to see him come down. It kind of, man, it sucks. This is the whole age thing. It really just sucks to see fighters go because I love Paul Felder. I'd like to see this dude fight more. And I agree with a lot of things that you said, and I agree with what you're saying about Paul Felder. It's not that he lacks that power that he's had. It's the fact that he's kind of taken a bit more of a technical approach. When you look at the James Vick fight, the Mike Perry fight, the Edson Barbosa fight with Paul Felder, those weren't just like, oh, guys, you got to check out this fight. It was a complete banger. Like, they were pretty good fights, but you look at the Dan Hooker fight, Paul Felder fight, it was a absolute banger. And my number one fight of the year was actually Dan Hooker, Dustin Poirier. Yeah, I got to say that's one of the greatest fights I've ever seen. And more so, the reason I can lean towards that, why that fight against Dan Hooker was so good, was probably because Dan Hooker is a brawler, and that dude likes to eat punches and throw punches and continue that cycle over and over and over again. So I don't, if you're going to go into this fight expecting the UFC's going to be like, look at Paul Felder's last fight, it was a war and they went back and forth. If you're expecting this fight to be like that, don't, because you will be let down. I agree with you. We don't typically agree this much, even on points. But I expect Rafael Dos Anjos to try to take this fight to the ground where he should have the advantage. And this is the thing. You're looking at Rafael's last few fights. Not only is he getting beat by, as you mentioned, guys who are bigger than him and guys who are wrestlers, the fights he loses, he gets taken down. In his last few losses, since he's had 4 losses since the Tony fight. So ever since he was in welterweight, he's had 4 losses, minimum taken down 3 times in all of his losses. He got taken down 6 times by Kevin Lee.
He beat Kevin Lee, by the way.
Yeah, he submitted him as well. So
arm triangle.
Yeah, so looking at those fights, man, you're looking at the Neil Magny fight, the Tarek Saffiedine fight, the Robbie Lawler fight. Won those 3, and he got taken down a combined 1 time against all of them. So yeah, fighting a guy who doesn't want to take you down, when you're fighting a guy the caliber, the striking defense, the technicality of Rafael Dos Anjos, I think this is a bad fight for Paul Felder. I think it's really, really close. Don't get me wrong, because Paul Felder he's a commentary piece, a very big piece of the commentary booth for a good reason. He's a very, very smart guy. And that's kind of why I have to go with Rafael Dos Anjos here, because I think that sort of technicality is what it takes. It's kind of gonna bite him in the back for which is weird to say, to be honest, because technicality is typically an advantage in this point. But when you're being technical with a guy the caliber of Rafael Dos Anjos, and I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, this guy's talking about Rafael Dos Anjos like he's great."
He is great.
He is great. So look at the last few fights that he's had. He's ran into trains, and this is one thing that you're going to hear me mention a lot, because it's kind of something that is evident throughout the card. A lot of these fighters that are on losing streaks, and that's why people are saying this card's kind of trash, is because a lot of these fighters have ran into trains, and people are calling them done. When one fighter loses against a guy who's very, very good, he's not done. And I'm gonna mention that over and over again. So. Yeah, I'm going to say that I'm going to go with Rafael Dos Anjos here. This is probably one of my lower confidence picks of the night, to be honest, just because I do think Felder has the power. And as you mentioned, again, if the fight stays standing, I could see that Felder could have some advantages, because he definitely has a power advantage.
I don't know about that.
I would say he has power advantage. I think the reason he's not getting those knockouts anymore is just because he's being a little bit more technical. So I think he's got the power advantage over Rafael. And I just think that I think that it's going to be either it's going to be a close fight that stays standing, or it's going to be a very one-sided fight that goes to the ground in favor of RDA. I'll probably take RDA, but via decision. Lower confidence pick for sure. But yeah, we're both got RDA in this one. RDA is a favorite, no?
Yes, he is a slight favorite, I want to add.
I was shocked to see that, to be honest. I would imagine, because when people talk about the lightweight division right now, at least, people are mentioning obviously the top ones with Khabib retiring. They're mentioning Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor. You're mentioning Tony Ferguson, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje. You're mentioning those 5 names, but the one that people tend to just throw in there all the time is either Al Iaquinta or Paul Felder. And I think Paul Felder is one you should definitely be throwing in there, but. Another thing, having that 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing, he said it's a 50% chance he retires if he wins. So I assume if he loses, it's 100% chance, because I can't see why you would retire off of a win compared to off of a loss. Why would you keep going if you're losing compared to if not keep going if you're winning? So I assume he's retiring if he's done here. Which sucks, man. It sucks. And that's the whole age thing that I was mentioning. But, yeah, so we both got RDA in this one. We want to know what you guys got. So make sure you guys are just letting us know in the comments who you guys got. We're so sorry we got the videos out late.
Too late.
But we'll try to get them out as soon as possible. Man, it was just a crazy, crazy week. I'm so behind on so much work. And as I mentioned, it's my freaking birthday, and I'm out here talking to you guys about some fights. But, hey, no place I'd rather be. Really, really happy to be here. And like I said, man, just make sure you guys are letting us know your feedback. Make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel. Make sure you guys check out the other fight pick videos.
Wait, before we're done, our good friend, collaborator, Slick Diaz, would like it known that he is picking Paul Felder, as he would be joining us this week. But he wants it known that he's picking Paul Felder. And one more thing, you have to look at the fact that RDA is having a full camp. Felder is not. That's just one more thing I wanted to add. Sure. This is the real outro. Sorry about that, guys.
Hey,
watch the other fight pick videos.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the other fight pick videos.